You asked about a shooting that we just had in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was an act of domestic terrorism.
At 4:47 a.m., Minneapolis looked like a city frozen in time. Snow clung to rooftops, streetlights flickered softly against the icy sidewalks, and the historic homes along Portland Avenue stood quiet.
This is also a community on edge. There are roughly 80,000 Somalis living here in the area.
And so in speaking with several people who currently live there and work there,
In the cold January darkness. To the residents tucked beneath their blankets, it was just another winter morning. But outside, something was moving. Something calculated, coordinated, and deadly serious. A convoy of unmarked black SUVs crept into the neighborhood, engines low, headlights off. Doors opened in silence. More than 250 federal agents from the FBI, ICE, and tactical response units stepped into formation. They weren't dressed like ordinary law enforcement. They wore heavy ballistic armor, night vision gear, and helmets bearing no insignia. These were not officers preparing for an arrest. These were operators preparing for a war zone. Their target was not a cartel bunker or a gang hideout. It was a luxurious Victorian-era home belonging to a respected Minnesota judge, a man the community trusted, admired, and defended. At exactly 4:52 a.m., the command was given. Flashbangs exploded across the front porch, shattering the silence and lighting up the street like a lightning strike. The front door imploded, and the agents poured inside. But what greeted them was not panic. It was organized resistance. 21 armed guards, positioned in hallways, staircases, and choke points, unleashed a coordinated counterattack. These were not desperate criminals. They fought like trained soldiers. For 10 minutes, the historic home became a battlefield, and when the shooting stopped, the truth began to surface. Behind a false wall in the basement, investigators uncovered a single document, one that would expose corruption so deep it threatened to destabilize the entire Minnesota justice system. The judge was not protecting the law. He was protecting an empire. The raid on Portland Avenue didn't begin with months of surveillance or years of intelligence. It began with something far simpler, a routine traffic stop that went viral for all the wrong reasons. 24 hours before the raid, a Minneapolis patrol unit pulled over a vehicle driven by Renee Good, a local woman known for minor run-ins with the law. Within minutes, bystanders had their phones out. She shouted about her rights, claimed harassment, and accused officers of profiling her. The video hit social media instantly, collecting millions of views. Commenters argued about police abuse, civil rights, and systemic issues. But cameras don't capture everything. When officers opened the vehicle's rear compartment, the story collapsed. Inside was 80 kilograms of high-purity methamphetamine and $2.3 million in cash, sealed, labeled, and ready for distribution. This wasn't a scared citizen. This was a high-level courier. She refused to talk, but her phone did. Travel logs revealed a disturbing pattern. Every delivery she ever made aligned perfectly with the court schedule of Judge Hassan Duail. Financial analysts dug deeper and found something more alarming. Over 5 years, $417 million had moved through shell companies tied to the judge. Transfers were synchronized with major drug rulings in his courtroom, evidence withheld, sentences reduced, motions delayed. The judge wasn't biased, he was bought. He was the super facilitator, the legal guardian of a cartel network operating inside the justice system itself. Yet even with all this evidence, one question remained unanswered. If the judge controlled the courtroom, who controlled the product? The answer lay beneath his home in a heat signature picked up by a drone hours before the raid, one that made absolutely no sense on a frozen Minnesota morning.
3 hours before agents stormed the residence, the FBI deployed high-altitude thermal drones to map the property. They expected to find hidden rooms or concealed storage. Instead, they discovered something impossible: Behind the judge's detached garage, the frozen soil was glowing hot. Not warm, glowing. A massive heat plume rose from underground as if something mechanical or industrial was operating beneath the earth. It wasn't a sewer line. It wasn't a power grid. It was an engineered space hidden from all public records. After the firefight ended, agents moved to the garage. Beneath layers of snow, they uncovered a hydraulic lift disguised as a concrete slab. When activated, the floor split open, revealing a reinforced steel tunnel descending into darkness. This wasn't a panic tunnel. This was infrastructure. Inside, the agents found a fully operational underground distribution hub. Reinforced walls, industrial ventilation, conveyor systems, storage chambers, networked computer terminals, high-efficiency climate control, and stacked inside metal crates were 2.3 tons of narcotics, heroin, synthetic opioids, meth, and compounds so dangerous that agents had to wear full respirators. But the real shock awaited them in the judge's private study. 5 encrypted computers were still running, connected to a live network. Using emergency forensic locks, analysts froze the system. What appeared on the screens was horrifying. A real-time map of Minnesota's...
City and state lawmakers are going to demand that the FBI cooperate with Minnesota's Bureau of Criminal Apprehension on this investigation.
Ports, shipments, clearance codes, and schedules, all controlled through a secret channel. 12 port officials had been quietly approving illicit containers for years, bypassing customs in under 9 minutes. The judge's home was the brain, the tunnel was the storage, but the port was the mouth of the beast, and the next shipment was only 2 hours away. At sunrise, the port of Minneapolis was waking up like any ordinary morning. Workers clocked in, cranes rolled across the skyline, and fog drifted slowly off the water. No one noticed the fleet of federal vehicles racing toward Gate 4. Until it was too late. The agents didn't knock. They breached the security barriers at full speed, tires skidding across wet pavement. The objective was clear: seize the incoming shipment before the network could erase the evidence. The port exploded into chaos. Shots erupted from between stacked shipping containers as armed guards attempted to cover the escape routes. These weren't random thugs. Their response was disciplined and coordinated, the signature of cartel-trained security. Agents split into 3 strike teams. Team Alpha locked down the customs office, preventing any digital wipe. Team Bravo cleared the bonded warehouses. Team Charlie sprinted toward Warehouse C, the location flagged by the judge's computers. A 7-minute firefight shook the docks. Bullets sparked off container walls, echoing across the water like thunder. But the federal teams pushed through, neutralizing the resistance and breaching Warehouse C. Inside, hidden behind crates of frozen produce, was the truth. 1.1 tons of heroin, 800 kilograms of fentanyl, drums of synthetic compounds, storage for Midwest-wide distribution. This wasn't a shipment, it was a central hub supplying half the region. Financial teams seized the office records and discovered the betrayal in black and white. 12 port officials receiving monthly illegal payments of up to $1.4 million each. While agents secured the evidence, a tugboat attempted a desperate escape. Federal interceptor boats surrounded it, recovering another massive load of narcotics destined for deep-water disposal. By noon, the port was under control. The judge was in custody. The network was collapsing, but the damage they had done to the country was only beginning to be understood. By midday, the operation reached its culmination. Between the judge's fortified mansion and the seized port warehouses, agents had confiscated 5.5 tons of narcotics and frozen millions of dollars in shell accounts. The scale of the seizure was staggering, but the real horror came from the analysts' estimates. The synthetic opioids alone...
So ICE is present there to conduct ICE operations to round up illegal aliens within the state and within the country. And in this particular case, they were there conducting such operations.
Presented millions of lethal doses, enough to devastate entire communities across the Midwest. Judge Hassan Duail, once celebrated as a champion of fairness, now faced a future in a federal supermax. The charges, narcotics trafficking, racketeering, corruption, and conspiracy, carried multiple life sentences. His 26 guards were detained. The 12 port officials were indicted. The accounts were frozen. The ghost corridor was destroyed. But Minneapolis was left with a haunting question. How could this happen in plain sight? This operation didn't unfold in a jungle or a desert overseas. It unfolded in a mansion on a quiet American street, in a courtroom where justice was supposed to be sacred, in a bustling port seen by thousands every day. It succeeded because the criminals weren't hiding in shadows. They were wearing badges. They were signing warrants. They were standing behind podiums pretending to serve the public. The raid proved an uncomfortable truth. The most dangerous enemies of justice are not always strangers. Sometimes they are the people trusted to protect it. As federal prosecutors prepare their case, more political connections emerge each day. The investigation is far from over, and for the citizens of Minneapolis, one lesson is painfully clear. Evil doesn't always break the law from the outside. Sometimes it rewrites the law from within.